Hello and welcome to the United on Wheels podcast. How are you? It's me, Paul Amadeus Lane, and I am so delighted to have you with me today. Why? We're going to talk about some of the amazing advocacy that's being done here at United Spinal. You don't want to miss this great conversation we're going to have with the ones who are involved with overseeing this amazing integral part of United Spinal. But before we bring them on, I want to remind you always go to our website, unitedspinal.org. There you can find out some great things that we're doing here at United Spinal. You can find out how you can get involved. You can find out how you can help others to find out some of the great things that we have going here at United Spinal. Well, enough about me and more about our guests. Let's welcome them on right now. And joining me right now, these amazing individuals, these awesome guests. A lot of things couldn't happen at United Spinal without these two right here, in my opinion. We have the beautiful Annie Streit, and we also have Steve Lieberman. Welcome, you two. How are you both doing?
Doing good. Excited to be here.
Doing great. Good to see you, Paul.
Hey, same here. Great to have you both. So, before we talk about the amazing advocacy that's going on here at United Spinal, let's first find out what you both do with the organization. I know, but ones who are listening and watching and viewing and maybe don't know, and I don't want to mess it up. So, Annie, we go with you first, ladies first, and Annie before you go. Annie, are you okay?
I'm good. I'm
All
good.
right,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yes, I am the Grassroots Advocacy Manager for United Spinal Association, and I've been with United Spinal for 2.5 years now. And I manage our grassroots advocates across the country, which, we'll be talking about our grassroots advocacy network and showing how much we've grown. And I really work with our chapter advocacy coordinators, state advocacy coordinators, and regional advocacy coordinators to provide them with assistance and help, and just help to continually grow our grassroots advocacy network, just across the US on social media, just to create a bigger footprint.
Awesome. And you do a fantastic job, if I may say so
Thank you.
myself, Annie. And by that answer, you are okay.
I
Steve,
am okay.
why don't you let everyone know about the great things you do at United Spinal?
So, I am the Director of Advocacy and Policy for United Spinal Association. I've been with United Spinal for it's now 3.5 years. Time flies. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but I think COVID has messed up everybody's sense of time. Uh, but I oversee our advocacy department, our advocacy program, the Grassroots Advocacy Network, working with the wonderful Annie, and I'm helping to lead the charge here when it comes to creating opportunities for folks to get involved and engaged at the federal, state, and local levels, coming up with various advocacy programming, and then overseeing our state advocacy as well. Helping our folks across the country to find ways for getting involved where they are and making change where they are.
Appreciate it and appreciate all that you do, Steve, as well. And don't mean to throw a curveball at you both, but being a journalist, that's what I do. But Annie, what was it about United Spinal really spoke to you coming aboard and lending all your expertise to really help out this organization?
I always say I was an advocate before I knew I was an advocate. I did a lot of motivational speaking and going out to groups, and this opportunity at United Spinal came along, and a acquaintance of mine presented it to me, and I read through it and thought it was just a great opportunity. And then once I was on the team and got to know everybody and started getting to know all these advocates, it just has been such a great experience, and it's such a great group of people to work with, that are so motivated and dedicate so much time to the disability community, and just trying to improve and grow.
Awesome. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And Steve, well, because Steve, you and I've had a discussion before. You spent some time on the Hill, so you know a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. But what was it about United Spinal that said, Steve, come on, let's do this?
Yeah. So, the last couple of years I was on the Hill, 2017, 2018, and, 2019, I just felt pulled in the direction of wanting to do something in the disability advocacy space. I self-identify as an openly disabled person. I'm autistic. I also have spina bifida occulta, which I feel like is affecting me more and more as the years go on. Learning how to deal with that. But I just felt like I wanted to share my knowledge about how the process works, how you effectively advocate and lobby legislators, members of Congress, decision makers. What works, what doesn't, what are the strategies that you need to employ to get things moving and get things done. So I felt like, looking out at the disability advocacy landscape, I needed to share what I knew because we needed to improve to be, in a better place with regards to some of the other movements that are out there and use some of their techniques that I saw were working well, whereas some of the things that the disability community were doing, maybe weren't as effective or weren't being used the right way. So I wanted to jump off the Hill and into the disability advocacy space for a while, and then the opportunity presented itself with United Spinal, and I just went for it. It was the right fit, and I really could not be happier with all that I've done, all the the wonderful colleagues that I have here, and the wonderful members of the community that I've been able to meet over the last few years.
And Steve, we couldn't be happier to have you on board with this because you and Annie do some amazing things. And Annie, if you don't mind, talk about your disability too, because a lot of people know who you are because you host the live advocacy show that we have here at United Spinal on the Facebook page. But for some who may not know, are we familiar with your disability? Can you share that with us, please?
Yeah. I have been a power wheelchair user for 17 years, a little over 17 years now. I was in a diving accident and I am a C5 quadriplegic. So, it's really come full circle coming here to United Spinal and just this amazing community of people, spinal cord injury, spinal cord disorders, wheelchair users. I've met so many great people, and doing that Meet an Advocate live stream once a month. I love highlighting the work that our advocates are doing.
And you do a great job of that as well.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some of the great growth, some of the accomplishments. And before we do, I want to share this map with everyone so they can see just how extensive the advocacy network is. And looking at this right here, Steve, what comes to your mind?
Disability is present in every community. Yeah. We know that. The disability community is 25% of the country. So, the most important thing that we've tried to steer our advocacy program towards is making sure that we reach everyone. Not only do we reach all of our community members, but we also reach all of the elected officials and decision makers so that we can present our community's needs and be heard and make sure that it's taken into account as they make their decisions. So we wanted to make sure that we got as many advocates as possible in all corners of the country. So, over the last couple of years, we've been recruiting advocates, all across the country. We now have nearly 1,600 registered advocates across all 50 states in 415 out of the 435 congressional districts. So that's 95% that we have at least one advocate. And if you're able to look at the map, you can see there's varying gradients of orange there. Orange being the United Spinal color, and as the color gets deeper, that's where we have more advocates. So the lightest shade is where we have one advocate. The next shade is where we have between 2 and 4, and the bright orange is where we have 5 or more. And in some cases, we have 10 or even more advocates in one congressional district. So the goal is we want to have at least 5 advocates in each congressional district. Now, when you look at how big is a congressional district, well, in terms of geographic size, that varies, but they typically are around 700,000 people. Well, I figure we can find at least 5 people per 700,000 in each congressional district, right? And when you have that critical mass of advocates that are emailing, phone calls, taking meetings with their elected officials, that's where you start to see the staff and the elected officials themselves say, oh, wait a second, we better start paying attention to what this community has to say. When the elected officials hear from folks back home, that's when they know they have to pay attention. That people the people that they're accountable to are, asking for something. That's when they know they have to, step up and listen.
So true. And Annie, when you look at the 2022, things started opening up. We started to get back to some type of normalcy. What did you see as far as the accomplishment and the growth during that time?
It was amazing how so many more people were included with the use of social media and having to do so many things virtual. And I think it was a great way that we were able to spread the word, get more involved. And our hopes were that it would keep snowballing and keep growing. And that map is evidence of it doing that, and how even though we may not have a chapter in every state, we definitely have registered advocates in every state. So it makes me happy. It makes me happy to keep seeing the map turn more bright orange as we go along.
So true, so true. And when we look at the different working groups out there and the focus, why don't you, both of you guys, don't mind sharing with the listeners and the viewers out there just the main focus of these different groups, and maybe some of the different groups out there that they may not be aware of?
Sure. So, the working groups, which launched last year, grew out of, the programming. This is all organic. It all organically grew out of the programming that we have been putting into place over the last couple of years. So back in 2021, the second half of 2021, we launched our Advocacy Live virtual meetings, bringing together dozens of advocates from around the country every month for a Zoom call to talk about, whatever is going on where they are. We out of those meetings and out of just one-on-one conversations with our individual advocates, the idea formed where we would form these working groups to come together on particular issues of interest of members of the community. So, where we heard from, particular community members, and we heard from, multiple community members in many cases about a particular issue, then we said, oh, we should do more with this. So, we launched our working groups last year on accessible parking, outdoor access, and emergency preparedness. We are launching tomorrow our fourth working group on care support. And each of these working groups has, a couple dozen or so community members that are a part of them. And, we come together roughly once a month to talk about, these important issues, to identify problems and create actionable solutions to those problems, at the state and local level. So, we want to make sure that we're empowering our advocates, and not having so much of a top-down look of here's what you must support, but figuring out, with input from members of the community, well, what are the issues and what are we going to do about it? And then, creating, basically what we've termed it an advocacy menu, where we're going to have a list for our chapters and advocates to look at, and, in a variety of different, policy areas of, here are actionable items you can take on these various issues. You, the chapter, can decide what you want to do, and we'll support you. And we're not going to dictate to you what you want to do, but these are all the different options, and you can pursue whatever you want to do.
I love that, Steve. So we got to not just talk about it, we got to be about it. I love that. I love that. And Annie, you want to share with anything else that what Steve was talking about when it comes to the different groups out there, the focus, and just the impact that it has had out there in the community?
Yes, as Steve said, we started with the two groups, and then accessible parking came along with a very lively advocacy live conversation, which I love these advocacy live events. We bring in quite a few advocates, and just hearing about what they're working on. And it's great how these working groups have developed from that, because we know it's truly what the people in the disability community are pushing, where more change and awareness is needed. And, when we have these meetings, there's so many great ideas put out there by the advocates, and to be able to work together and come together to find these solutions and find ways to get things moving forward. It's fun, and it really, it lights a fire under me, because it makes me want to push more. So I really enjoy working with the advocates in all the different programming that we offer, especially since we know we're just trying to find so many ways to get our advocates involved.
And when it comes to accessible parking, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall with that discussion, because, I just made my 30-year ACTS anniversary, or my will anniversary, on the 21st of this month. So over the years, I've seen accessible parking and how it has just changed over the years, but I definitely have some horror stories. Did anything shock you both with these different advocacy groups about some of the challenges that one's face when it comes to accessible parking?
Well, I think one of the most interesting points that have come out of this, and we have some folks on our working groups who are real experts in these areas. So in the parking working group, we have Bill Bogdan, who's a real he's a real national leader, to be honest with you, when it comes to dealing with accessible parking in his state of Illinois, working out of the Illinois Secretary of State's office. We have in our other groups, we have real experts on outdoor access and emergency preparedness. But in the parking space, the interesting thing that came out of it for me was hearing about enforcement and the lack of enforcement, and why there's a lack of enforcement. So in many states, on private parking lots and in private parking garages, the law enforcement can't do parking enforcement. And out of Illinois, there's an order out of the Illinois Attorney General's office that has empowered law enforcement to actually conduct that parking enforcement in Illinois. So one of the things that we've been talking about is basically doing sort of a cut and paste, and encouraging other states to copy what Illinois has done, and providing that authority for law enforcement to do that enforcement on private lots, so that we can make a real dent on once we do more enforcement and get folks to understand what they've done wrong, maybe they won't do it again. And that to me was the most surprising thing that I wasn't even aware of before we started having these conversations.
Okay, no problem. So what we need, I think, and this is my opinion, we really need a national standard of accessible parking and what the rules are, because if you just leave it to chance, you have all these different scenarios out there that if you get caught in the wrong situation, you can get your wheels towed, and then how are you gonna get home, right? Because we don't have accessible Ubers out there and everything. But hearing some of the discussions that came out of it, I am really encouraged by that. And Annie, was there anything that you heard during these discussions that kind of was like a moment or something that you took from this?
Yes, and it was actually from Bill Bogdan again. He's such a wealth of knowledge involving accessible parking, and I'm from Indiana, and I did not realize that Indiana, the handicap placards, do not expire. I did not realize that. So you can go in and get a placard for maybe you won't personally needs it for a short amount of time, but that never expires. So you have a lot of people using placards in my state that don't really need them. And I was not aware of that at all.
I'm so glad you said that, because I get bothered every 2 years and every 4 years in California that I got to fill out that I still need it. But
Yeah.
I can see the reason why now, because some people
Yeah.
could definitely abuse it. I mean, I wish there was an expiration date on my disability, because in 2 years I would love to get up and walk and do the things I used to do, but that's not happening.
Yep.
But and one thing I really appreciate about the different work groups out there that you both are overseeing is that there's a regional focus for folks who are local, but then there's also a national focus, because a lot of these different issues that we face, can cross state lines and be all over the United States. What are some of the challenges, though, to really get ones locally to vocalize some of the frustrations that they have, because they may not even know about some of these amazing groups that are in their area?
Right. So, obviously, first of all, if folks are, they live in a place where there's a chapter, a lot of times folks aren't even aware that there's a United Spinal chapter near where they are. Right. So, I mean, that's, they should get connected with a chapter. Where there is not a chapter, and we actually did something about this last year. So the advocacy department now has, we've implemented a new structure within our program to make sure that we're not missing anybody, even if whether there's a chapter there or not, that we have advocacy coordinators in place for that state or part of a state where there isn't a chapter. So, Annie and I have been working throughout the last year, interviewing different people and getting different folks in place in places where we don't have chapters at the moment. So, for example, in Indiana and in Alabama and in Rhode Island and a whole bunch of other places where there isn't a United Spinal chapter, we now have a state advocacy coordinator in place, or multiple coordinators in place that functions as a team, to make sure that we have that infrastructure, and so that we have somebody there on the ground sort of directing traffic. And that's a place where folks can go to get involved and, hear more about all the, wonderful stuff that we're doing and all the different opportunities that we have for folks to get involved.
And Steve, what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of teasing people what I'm showing, because if it's not in your area, this is what you're missing out on. So I'm trying to get them to want all these great benefits right here. And when we look at all these different groups right here, I'll go back to the top, the Outdoor Access Working Group. I mean, I wish I had something like this 30 years ago when I first was injured, because I would have not sat around the house and watched Richard Bay, Montel Williams, Jenny Jones, all the talk shows. I'd have went outside. And then we talked about the outside parking working group, emergency preparedness. There's Eric Kawando right there. All these different things right here are just amazing. And what made you guys want to come up with these specific specific work groups? Because I never would have thought about these things.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it came out of conversations we have with our members, right? So outdoor access came about because we were trying to get Jeff Pagels, who's a member from the Green Bay area in Wisconsin, to participate in our advocacy network. And he was, told us all about, the work that he'd done with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the fact that he was a Paralympian, all that he had done in the area of outdoor accessibility, both in terms of, natural infrastructure and built infrastructure. And so, he expressed, he wanted some kind of an outlet to work on outdoor accessibility issues. And so that sort of stuck in my head for quite a while until we were able to, put this forward of like, okay, we're going to create this working group structure. And here's how we're going to do it. Emergency preparedness, we'd had conversations with, various folks. We participated in focus groups on emergency preparedness. I've been working through United Spinal, working on getting the District of Columbia to implement a settlement, because we actually, United Spinal sued the District of Columbia a number of years ago to get them to include people with disabilities in their emergency planning. So we've been working through the terms of the settlement agreement for the last 3 years. And, I've been working on that for all that time. And so, we have our Ready to Roll program through United Spinal. So we thought, okay, this could be sort of like a brain trust to make sure that our Ready to Roll program is, doing all the things that we need to be doing, meeting everybody's needs. So that's where that came about. The accessible parking working group came about, talking to, as Annie said, we had our advocacy live session, and these are, once a month. We alternate the third Tuesday of every month. We alternate between 1 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. So that's 10 a.m. Pacific or 2 a.m. Pacific every month. And so we had, they're scheduled to run for an hour. We actually ended up, we brought up the issue of parking, and that conversation lasted for 90 minutes. So we went 30 minutes over time, and people had a lot to say about parking. So, we're like, okay, well, we're going to make a working group on parking. So that's where that came about. And then in talking to, a whole bunch of different folks about issues related to care support, finding a PCA, the care economy. There's so many challenges associated with that. How poorly paid PCAs are, and how hard it is to keep PCAs. In talking to various folks in the community, and we've done a lot of work on this at the national level over the last 2 years. Well, that, we thought, okay, now it's time to do a care support working group, because so many people have brought this up, and we've been working on this for quite a while. So, and, there may be others that come about, although, we've got our hands full right now, I think, but, I think in the future, there's probably going to be room for more of these, but I mean, it's all based on what our community members want, right? It's all about what are their interests, what do they want, what do they want to work on, what are the challenges that they face, right? So we're empowering our members, and we really want our grassroots advocacy network, our 1,600 strong network that we have now, and it's continuing to grow. We wanted to be a choose your own adventure kind of a thing, where we're presenting all these opportunities for folks to get involved, whether it's our Advocacy Live, Roll on Capitol Hill, our virtual advocacy day, our working groups, the work that our chapters do, work that individuals can do where they are, and basically saying, okay, you have all these opportunities to get involved, get involved as much as you want, as much as you can. Obviously, we'd love for everybody to get involved as, to the greatest possible extent, but, it's, what do you want to do? And we're going to empower folks to do that. We're going to support you in your advocacy journey.
Thank you so much, Steve. We can really hear and see the passion and the blood, sweat, and tears that you and Annie and the rest of the team are putting when it comes to these working groups. I mean, just a phenomenal way of getting action and things done that we really need in our community. Really, really appreciate it. So is there anything else about the working groups, about anything in general, or how one can join this awesome groups?
You want me to take that one, Steve?
Go ahead, Annie.
All right. Well, there's, if people are interested in the working groups, you were flipping through it before, the blog talking about the various working groups, and at the very bottom, there is a button you can click to fill out a form, and you can check off any or all of the working groups you want to take part in. That notifies Steve, and it notifies me. We add you to the list, and you'll start receiving emails and notifications on when we meet, which is around once a month. Yep, there it is right there, and it is www.unitedspinal.org/advocacy-working-groups. So that's where they can find it, or you can simply contact and email Steve or myself, and we will get you signed up so you can start putting in your 2 cents, and we want to hear from you.
Awesome. So can you share with me, just between us, nobody else is going to hear this, what do we have to look forward to this year? Anything on the horizon, future plans this year?
So we've got a lot of things going on this year. So as we mentioned, we've got our care support working group that's starting up tomorrow. It's launching this year. We're going to be doing more in terms of our regions. So we have 6 regions in United Spinal that our chapters in our states are divided into. We want to make sure that our regional, our advocacy coordinators for that region are meeting and talking about advocacy initiatives that they've got going on in their states. Our state advocacy councils, which in our larger states, we have multiple chapters. They've been meeting since late last year, and I'm sure they're going to be having some advocacy initiatives going on in their states, as well as some of our other chapters. We have Virtual Advocacy Day that's going to be in March. That's going to be focused on spinal cord injury model systems funding. It's going to be right smack dab in the middle of appropriations season, where Congress is, they've got letters flying around, at getting members of Congress to support various programs. So we want to make sure we're right in the thick of it there, right as they're doing that, and meeting with our members of Congress. And of course, we have Roll on Capitol Hill that's in June. And, we're going to be pushing on a wide variety of issues, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to employment and healthcare. We have a big opportunity this year with regard to air travel. So every 5 years, the Federal Aviation Administration has a reauthorization that gives Congress the opportunity to sort of revisit where things are with the airline industry. And this is our opportunity now this year to make a real difference in air travel, which is such a nightmare for wheelchair users in this country. And so we're going to be pushing, along with some other groups, to include language in the legislation that passes that is hopefully going to fix many of the problems that are inherent in air travel for wheelchair users. And there's going to be a lot of different, there's going to be action alerts that we're going to be sending out, throughout the year on different issues. But, there's so many opportunities for folks to get involved, right? And again, as I said, we want this to be a choose your own adventure kind of a thing. You can get as involved as you like. We hope that you get, more involved rather than less involved, but you can get as involved as you like, and, bring along, folks in your own personal networks, your family members, your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, get them involved, because, all you really need to, be involved with the United Spinal is that you care about the issues that we care about. So, anybody that cares, we want them to be a part of all that we're doing.
I love it. I love it. And it's been really great speaking with you both, finding out more information about the great things that are happening when it comes to the advocacy here at United Spinal. And I think oftentimes these amazing programs out there don't get talked about enough. So I'm glad we are having this conversation and this discussion. And before I let both of you go, anything else before we leave? Annie, want to go first?
Yeah. I just want to say, if you're listening and you're not sure about advocacy, or how involved you want to get, a good option would be to join our Advocacy Live 1 month, and you can just join and listen, and you can hear our advocates from all over talk about everything going on. And I just think it's a great way to see, the various levels you can be involved in. And advocacy really is, sharing your story. It's the best way to advocate. And I've learned that over time. And if you can be transparent, and as more transparent you are, the more people you're going to reach and the more relatable you'll be.
Well said. And Steve, any closing thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, so the easiest way for folks to get involved is to join our Grassroots Advocacy Network, to fill out our form. That's at unitedspinal.org /grassroots-advocacy-network. And, it's a very quick form. Fill that out. You get plugged into all that we're doing. You get reminders about Advocacy Live every month. Action alerts as they come about, and we I try not to clog people's inboxes. I don't want to send folks, a ton of emails all the time. So, I do what I can to not do that. So, but it's the quickest and easiest way to get involved and to, stay up to date on all that's going on. And we'll send reminders and action alerts out, and you can be a part of something that honestly I think is really special. We're changing the culture, we're building a movement, and we want everybody to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. It was great speaking with you, and looking forward to our next chat.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Really enjoyed chatting with Steve Lieberman and Annie Streit. And yes, I had to have that Michael Jackson reference, right? Annie, are you okay? Annie, are you okay? And she was okay. Really enjoyed hearing about all the great things happening with the advocacy work groups that we have going over here at United Spinal. So make sure you sign up, share with others about these Advocacy Live that's going on. And make sure you go to the website and check everything out. Well, until next time, folks, please stay healthy, stay safe, and remember, I love you all to life. Until next time.